Is that your dog, Josh?
Jesus Christ. Like right on cue, he wakes up now.
I was like, I thought he was in a coma.
Go give him some more drugs.
He's awake now.
Wait, we're live. This is the podcast.
There's no live. We're doing it over again. We'll skip ahead. Hey, everybody, I'm Josh Schachter, and I'm going to talk really quick right now because I want to get out of the way before my puppy starts barking in the background. Welcome to this edition of Unchurned. I'm here with Jon Johnson, Kristi Faltorusso, and Mickey Powell. Guys, thanks so much for being on this episode, and welcome back.
Oh, what's up? I think we're visual now, right? They're seeing our faces.
They are.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is great.
I hope so. I put on my good eyebrows.
I got my hair cut this weekend. I actually got
really
them all
nice.
cut. Thank you.
Yeah. That's very
little
handsome.
fade. Thank you. Ooh,
Yeah,
thank
I
you.
like it. I like the shape. I mean, it's like really flattering.
Yeah, thank you.
I like it too, John. It's a little bit of like the SoCal style. I
It is.
I have to say.
Yeah. I'm wearing my Vans and my skinny jeans still. So the youth would not appreciate it.
In this week's edition of the CS Insider Report, there's a few articles that are coming out that caught my eye here that are going to be talked about. The first one is from Daphne Lopez from HubSpot, and she writes a really cool opinion piece about the importance of CSMs redefining their roles so that they're not just thought of as being support, right? It's like CSMs say, hey, ping me for anything, whatever you need, contact me. And then all of a sudden they get bludgeoned with just support tickets or support issues and kind of the value of the role a little bit is diminished. So I want to know from you guys, how have you approached this with your CS teams in advising them? Like, how do you communicate to your customers so that you're setting the proper expectations of the role of a CSM and they're not just somebody that's there to get support issues?
I want to hear Kristi first.
Okay. All right. Very good. I didn't want to talk over anyone. All right. So I would say the biggest thing for us is setting expectations early on in the partnership. So when we do our partnership kickoff, we're very deliberate about talking about roles and responsibilities, and not through the lens of like, oh, this person does this, but more so like, hey, Mr. Customer, if you have this type of issue or this happens, this is where you're going to direct that. So I would say setting expectations up front has always been, I think, a big part of us getting it right. But guess what? Customers don't always want to follow the rules. So what the team is instructed to do is obviously guide in the moment. And so I know CSMs, I think the tendency is to just be super helpful, right? Like lean in, a customer has a problem. Great. Oh yeah, we're here to help. We want to do everything we can. We actually instruct our team to actually do the opposite, right? Is to redirect the customers. If it's a support related issue, we make sure that thank you for sending this over. In the future, I've routed this to support or I've entered it into the queue. Here's a link to the ticket. In the future, these types of requests, we ask that you send these directly to support. And here's why, right? You're going to get a faster response. We're going to get it resolved quicker for you, right? Having this sit in my inbox is you're just burning daylight. So we try to add some clear expectations around that, but then also the value of getting that right. We want to be helpful, but like, honestly, we want to empower the CSMs to actually own their role and not feel like they're begrudging to what the customers need and want to use them for, right? And that's not just support. It's support, it's professional services, it's product, it's leadership, it's like whatever, right? So we just try to empower the team to say, nope, that's outside of the scope of my role, but I can help you and here's how, right? I'm going to redirect you.
That's the perfect answer. I don't know where else to go with that. I think you just kind of you just put it all out there, and we're taking it in. Yeah, nailed it.
Yeah,
nailed
it.
Yeah,
Where's the bell ring? Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
Winner.
That was like the old school debate scene. He's like, I don't got anything else to add.
Yeah, I do actually have something to add.
Yes.
Kristi, you're wrong. No, I'm just no, I'm kidding. No, but I actually like, this is something that I really love. Like I saw her post and I feel like 2 years ago, all of LinkedIn was like, we're not support. And it's like, but they know, but you're who they know, right? And we should always be the person, like the funneling any type of conversations that we can to the right path. Hopefully they learn at some point to then start going there, but most of the time they won't, right? So the thing that I did want to add though, I actually, when when I'm on with customers, if I notice a trend of saying like, hey man, I'm noticing that you're coming to me a lot for these support questions. And you may have noticed that I'm sending you to support a lot. The reason being is that I like to explain to my customer, and I say this like, hey, just so you know, I'm on these meetings all the time. So your request may sit in my inbox for a day or two, maybe more, depending on like how things are going. But I want to make sure that you get the focus that you need on these requests, so that I'm verbalizing that with the customer, so that it does trigger in their brain to say like, oh, he's not ignoring me. Like, I don't like getting those, hey, I sent this email to you 2 days ago. And it's like, well, yeah, but I also told you I'm sitting on meetings like this 8 hours a day, 6 hours a day at times, right? Depending on your capacity.
Do you guys ever get customers that take advantage, that like every little thing, they could easily Google it themselves, or they could easily just, but they it's just easier for them to write the one sentence note to you.
Do you remember Let Me Google That For You? Does anybody remember that website?
Mm-hmm.
It's like my favorite backhanded compliment for the listeners. If you don't know what this is, it's letmegooglethatforyou.com. And you basically, it records a clip of a link to Google something for them. And it's just the best thing ever. You can't use that with too many customers, but
no, not in. I don't think I saw that on Jeff Brunsbach's customer success toolkit chart.
Wait, can I add one more thing to John's thing? Because John, I love the conversation that you're having with customers. I will say, if you are seeing it come up a lot, like if you've got a customer who just notoriously is sending you these things, I would also lean into it a little bit, right? Ask why. They might not be getting what they need from support. And so they feel like when they go to you, it's quicker, it's more thorough, it gets resolved, it feels escalated. And so when I start to see patterns like that, I lean into it, right? If we've done our due diligence and said, hey, this is who you go to, we've kind of led them to water, here's that I had a ticket, whatever, and they're still not doing it, I'd ask why.
Yeah,
right.
I love that.
And for them, listen, they might have I'm such a bonehead. I completely forgot. I'm so busy. Fine. Great. We'll just reiterate it. You might also find out that actually, Kristi, I'm just not getting what I need from support. Anytime I email you, it just seems to get a different level of attention, right? And different level of escalation internally. So, that could be something also that you bring to support. So I wouldn't say just continue to ignore it. If it's happening all the time, maybe ask a question as to why.
Yeah, I love that. It's all about proactivity, like why, asking the why, both to your customers and internally. I know this has uncovered a lot of gaps with our support team specifically. Not that they're doing anything wrong, but it's like, how do you track SLAs, and are you keeping, track of all of these response times? So it gets complex.
There's a school in France that is offering the first ever bachelor's degree in customer success. This was just reported. It's going to, somebody, Diego reported it in LinkedIn here. And it really caught my eye. It's going to be in the upcoming edition of CS Insider as well, the report. And I want to know from each of you guys, are you buying or are you selling a customer success program, bachelor's degree? Yeah. Are you buying or selling? Mickey, start with, go ahead.
Yeah, is there a batch? Well, number one, I didn't go to college, so
That's why I want to start with you.
Yeah, I don't read good, so I'm actually curious. Like, I'm a huge advocate of customer success, full stop. But second is is there equivalent vocational style focus area degrees for tech sales? Tech sales is great for a lot of people. That's how I got into tech, was through sales. So why does this get a degree and other things don't? Is there something fundamentally different that we should be offering a degree?
I mean, I actually think this is pretty tone deaf. I think what makes a good salesperson, it's not the ability to pick up a phone call and go through the sale. It's understanding and the knowledge of the industry, right? So it's knowing your product, it's knowing the problems and that type of thing, right? So a master's of whatever in customer success should be a business degree. That's it. Retention and all of these things, customer success I guess it's not fundamental in the way that an MBA is right now, but I can't see how there would be a difference or a benefit to having something that is focused on customer success, because if you dither it all down to business, to like, that's good business, is how to retain, how to grow, how to solve problems, right? I mean, that's like the core of a good MBA program. And I don't see, I mean, without like looking at the program, I don't know that I would look at somebody differently if they held this bachelor's degree versus, you know, an MBA or something.
Yeah. John, from your academic background, if you think about,
I went to art school.
Yeah, well, listen.
Super
this is going to be great.
Yeah.
And now we got your dog in the background, by the way. So if we think about from pre-K all the way to art school,
yeah,
what's the?
It's a linear path.
There was art in pre-K too, I'm sure. What's the number one skill that you've taken out of your academics that you've applied to CS?
Curiosity.
So really in pre-K, you could have stopped your education after that.
It's just how to finger paint. Like, it's truly like red is cool, blue is cool, green, yay. I went for music. It's just a lot of weed and studios. No, but I mean, like this is the thing. And I'm actually like in the process of talking with my eldest about college. He's a senior next year in high school. And we're talking through like what he wants to get out of college. And there's like new paths that exist today outside of like a traditional education, where like, I don't think that higher level, there are obviously some outliers for sure, but that the higher education is built to instill a desire to grow and to learn. I think they are based on tests, and I see it with my little kids too. Like they're really good at filling in bubbles on their scantrons, and it's like, but they don't ask questions, and they're not instilled in this wonder and this beauty. And this is what I love about having an artistic background, is that I was like instilled from an early age that like creativity is the greatest success that you can imagine. Like that, if you can dream it, you should be thinking of big things. And that's not really like the higher education now, unless you go to art school. So,
yeah,
preach. But you know, and I love that you're thinking outside the box. Like my daughter's nearly 5.
She's also applying to colleges.
Yeah,
that's right. Early admissions to Brown. So no, but I like. My wife went to college. She enjoyed college, but we've had a frank conversation of like, our daughter might not go to college. Number one, it's hard to know what's going to happen in the next 14 years. But number two, so like my wife studied kinesiology and is now a gainsight administrator. I didn't go to college. I worked in retail and then I got into tech. Like those are non-traditional paths, and so many people have those non-traditional paths. And to your point, John, like, I made a deal with myself when I didn't go to college. I was like, I'm just going to be a lifelong learner, and I'm just going to keep learning until I can't learn anymore. And I hope it works out. And long story short, it has worked out. Yeah. So like, we're not even saving for college for Logan. We are saving for her, but we're not doing like a college specific plan because we know it's very possible she won't want to. I kind of hope that like when she's 18, 19, she's like, I want to travel for 6 months and then I want to start my own business. And I'll be like, cool, here's $50,000. Go do it.
Yeah. Could I have $50,000 to do that?
Yeah.
Too?
Just let me adopt you and claim you on my taxes and we're good.
Perfect. I love
it. Mickey's still banking on ChatGPT for 18 years from now. It's going to be ChatGPT University for $20 a month.
But I do think that this is also like one of the things that kind of gets missed in customer success, is that like our job should be creative. Like we should, creative. But I feel like a lot of practitioners come in expecting to just follow a playbook and check the boxes and move on to the next one, right? Yeah, you see like the greats, the goats, whatever, if they exist. I don't know. We all have those badges.
You're sitting with one
on our LinkedIn. Right, she's right here. Are the ones that like can think outside the box and that can like really think through problems strategically and creatively and come to conclusions that are not based on some playbook that their manager kind of put out, right? And would a bachelor's degree teach you that, or would it just give you a more expensive playbook? That's the question.
John,
that I would
wouldn't
ask.
You say that like experience is what gives you that?
Yes.
Okay, so to get that experience, though, you've got to get an opportunity. Right. And so I don't know that I would go the route of like saying that the 4-year college path that like we need courses on customer success, but there are organizations like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Course Careers.
Yeah.
That they build courses exclusively for these different tracks to help folks who want to have an alternative to go to a 4-year college. And it helps them get the fundamentals around different core competencies, different disciplines, and then helps them land jobs. And these kids out of high school are getting jobs making close to 6 figures. And guess what? They don't have debt.
Yeah, it's great.
So like, those actually, courses, I think, are really useful.
Yeah, I think that's the thing is that, so what I would say, just because of the way that my brain works, is are companies, from a company's perspective, are you more likely to hire somebody who comes out of a 4-year institution that doesn't actually equate experience, right, in a specific industry versus one of these boot camps? This is kind of the argument that a lot of the coding boot camps have too, is that like, look, you're going to come to us and you're only going to focus on coding. So you only pay for coding and you're going to get the same job that you would have gotten if you got a computer science engineer, a degree or whatever it is. Right. So, like I'm all for it. I just think that I wonder what the industry is like as a hiring manager, are you more likely to hire somebody with experience in the field or somebody who has no experience in the field, but has a degree in this in this subject, right? What does the gatekeeping look like for these types of educations?
I'd be much more likely to look for somebody that like Kristi's describing and has come from boot camp, because they're showing that they just have the gumption to go through it, to power through it themselves. There's nothing wrong with the 4-year degree, bachelor's degree in customer success, but there's a little bit more cushion there, right? It's a little bit fluffier. Whereas, if you're somebody that's going through this boot camp, you probably don't have as much means, and you've probably had to kind of, to grind, and it shows perseverance and it shows your conviction and passion for wanting to do this role. So I don't know, that's what would shine on the resume for me.
Yeah, agreed. I know a bunch of folks that went through what's that SV Academy. They ran something and it was, not a highlight for a good amount of people. A lot of people went through it and not a lot of people found jobs through it. Right. So looking at what's this is actually like, I talk about my art school. I went to the Art Institute of Seattle. And that school doesn't exist anymore because they promised jobs in a field through their recruiting, saying like, hey, pay us this money and we'll get you a job in this field. And those jobs didn't exist. Right. So I think that there is a trick, like to advocate for the business degree or whatever it is, like that's broad. That can apply to anything, right? You can take that anywhere and people will recognize it. But if it's if it's a specialized industry thing, there probably isn't the same cross-functional value that you would have going through that program versus going through higher education.
There is an upcoming mastermind, I think they call it I don't know, a webinar
for success coaching.
Yes, from Success Coaching. Yes, it's actually upcoming in a month from now, but it's going to be featured also in the report, and it's called Utilizing Storytelling for Customer Success. This goes actually back into the behavioral economics. I'm a big fan of storytelling. I actually wrote about it recently on LinkedIn. It's always been an Achilles heel for me, but it's something that I've tried to improve on. And I'm wondering, are you guys using storytelling frameworks and techniques?
Well, I am after listening to your last podcast, Josh.
Thank you. Well, I mean, are you? That actually wasn't that's not a plug for my podcast, but yeah.
I mean, yes. I think, man, this is getting really tricky, I think, these days, because I really miss sitting in a room with people. Like I really miss like a captive audience, and I don't feel like it's the same over Zoom. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Like it's harder to get that almost kind of like TED Talk vibe where you can feel engagement and feel energy when you're doing this. It's, we're friends, so it's like we know each other, so we kind of can build some of that repertoire, but you can't really do that like with a Zoom that you've never met in person. I don't know. It's difficult. Mickey, what about you?
Yeah, I've been working remotely since 2017, and I've definitely thought a lot and tried a lot of different things to keep people engaged. And one of the things I do employ is like try to be better at storytelling. Like,
what does storytelling mean to you, Mickey?
So I'm a big fan of Nancy Duarte. I mean, I'm going to listen to the Kendra Hall episode because I'm sure she's got great stuff. Nancy Duarte, she's the one that actually helped craft the narrative for An Inconvenient Truth, Al Gore's whole thing. and like the way she presented it was just really easy to understand. Of like, you have the status quo, and then there's some big conflict, and then you make the leap, and then there's like this trough of just like everything sucks because it's so hard, and then that's where like your metal is tested, and then you reach the peak, and you're like, cool, and we celebrate and we have a good time, but then the process repeats. That's like the story arc. So I think about that a lot. And I've actually thought about it a lot in terms of customer success. And actually, I think that's what Josh actually, when we first met, I think I kind of told Josh about this theory that I have of like, when you have a customer and there's a bunch of people in that company and they're all kind of going through their own story arc, and like understanding where they are is kind of like an extra advanced tip of like, this person might be like celebrating a big win. So like you should share in that celebration. Another person might be really in the shit. Just like they're not in a good place. They don't know where to go. They're struggling. And it may not even be about you or your tool or product. Or somebody might be like needing you to like show them what's possible and and like why they should take this leap. And I think that's one thing that we don't consciously think about a lot, but we experience it where like I have to talk to this person in a very different way than I talk to that person, and thinking through the framework of like, where are they in the journey? And then who are you to them? Yeah. So like, are you Yoda? Are you Obi-Wan? Are you Han?
Darth Maul?
Are you Darth Maul? You could be, right? You could be the antagonist in their story. But I think that'll help you frame like, who do you need to be for them?
I think there's two interesting ways that CS can use storytelling. The first way is to tell the customer stories about how others have been successful, the founder story, the origin story, the value prop story. And Kindra talks about some of those frameworks for storytelling. And the other way is to relay the story of the customer back to the organization internally so that everybody has a vivid understanding of what the customer base is going through. So I don't know. I think it's incredibly important. I think it's a skill that sometimes is underlooked and undervalued, but for CS in particular, because CS is at like the front lines with the customer, they are that bridge. They know uniquely what the customer is going through, the emotions, the characters and stakeholders involved. And I just think it's really important, for CS teams to develop that. But I guess my question then for all you guys is, do you think it's important to have like templated, scripted is a strong term, but like stories that everybody on the team knows, case study stories that you can present to the customer, or your founder's story to align and unify the messaging?
So I think about it. I was actually processing a little bit while we were talking through this. I think that part of what I love about our job is that we spend a lot of time discovering. We should spend a lot of time listening and less time talking. And I think at times, the thing that makes QBRs terrible and the things that make all of these things that we're kind of used to kind of terrible is that you're just a talking head kind of running through slides. I like to think of the story that I'm telling is more the story that I'm writing with my customer. And that it's a choose your own adventure. Like that's the book. That's the analogy that I would use, is that when we're sitting in this room, I'm asking them, it's like almost like we're playing Dungeons and Dragons. Like if you want to get nerdy on this, right? And it's like, I've got the script and I've got the arc and I've got kind of the template and the map, but we're going to fill in all the colors as we go. And they're going to talk to me about these pain points. And I'm going to say, that's actually really interesting. And to your point around scripts and templates, I think that it's important to have a broad sense of obviously your company and your mission and your goal, so that you can apply, I need to guide this person down this pathway, or they're going down this pathway on their own. And I want to capture their whole thing, right? So that I can then elaborate that story elsewhere, outwards or inwards. So I think that as long as we keep that hat on, that the story is always being written with our customers, and that it is not a one-sided, like passive choice to say, here's your story, this is the book, I'm going to talk and you're going to listen. And it's like, let's actually like create this together, and you get some really compelling conversations and you get some really great value with customers out of those.
I like that approach. Kristi, what's the founder story, the origin story of client success? Do you know
It's a long one.
Is it a villain story or a hero story?
Yeah, give us the Cliff Notes.
So I don't know how many people know this about Dave, but Dave used to be.
Who's Dave? Sorry, not everybody knows who Dave is.
Sorry. You're right. I forgot that there's other people besides the three of us on this call. 4 of us. Dave Blake, the CEO of Client Success, before starting Client Success, actually worked at Adobe, and he was a leader of customer success for enterprise customers there. And he had actually used another software that's still currently in the market, and found it extremely challenging to do his job in a simple way. He felt like the software he was using was too complex. It didn't have a lot of features. He needed to just do the basics. And so when he left Adobe, he decided to go out, and he was on a mission to go build what he didn't have. And so he is actually, I think, maybe the only, or maybe with the exception of one other company, has the CEO is actually a former practitioner in customer success who's built and designed the technology. And so I think it's kind of something that makes Client Success special, is that Dave, myself, and others in the organization are all former customer success practitioners, right? We come from this world. We've all used different tools, and we know what we need to be successful in doing our job.
Cool.
There's a long story behind it, but
no, that's great. I love that.
That's good.
But
you
I
had
feel like
character, you had emotion.
I don't know that a lot of people know that about Dave Blake, though. And I think it's interesting, because I do think that if you have a founder who comes from this space, as opposed to just someone who was in sales or product before, right, and just decided to go do something cool and different, he experienced the same pain our customers experience and can talk to that.
Well, it's like what we talked about before, where it's like how many consultants have never been CSMs, and they're coaching people on how to build functional CSM teams, right? It's like there's pluses and minuses.
I would love to talk about the what's happening in the world right now with people just sharing things that lack personal experience.
Yeah.
Right? And they're relying on anecdotes from the experience of others.
Yeah.
The mushrooming of consultancy in the customer success world. There's a reason, by the way, that I don't speak as much as you guys in this podcast. I don't pretend. I don't pretend to know the answers to CS. I've never been one myself. So, but Dave should promote that, because I think it's people want that personal touch. The other person you're talking about, by the way, is Edward Chu, right, from Catalyst. And I know Edward. Kristi's giving me this look like, wow.
No, I'm just I just didn't feel necessary to name any names about anybody else in the space.
No, but I'm just saying because Edward's in New York and I'm in New York, and
yes,
we're buds as well, but so I go to a lot of live events, and he's always telling that story, which I think is smart and effective, right? Yeah, so cool. Well,
Nancy,
good talk, guys.
Duarte, you guys talk about this, but one of my favorite things that resources is the Harvard Business Review, the quick reads. And if you want to think about storytelling or whatever, she's got a quick book called Persuasive Presentations, and it's how to interweave storytelling into how we give presentations. It's pretty old, but it's it's a great little pamphlet kind of handbook to read. So. There was one other post in here I was actually reading, because I read it too. Do we have time for one more?
Yeah.
This is interesting, and I want to know Kristi's perspective on this, just because you are leading these things, but how Carly Ager has this kind of presentation or post on how to become more strategic with customers. And I think that's a word that gets thrown around a lot in our industry. I'm a strategic customer success. I talk about strategy. And it's what the hell does that mean? Just because we're all trusted advisors, we get to be strategic, right? How many buzzwords can we throw?
Synergy.
I have so many feelings on
I know
all of the
you
things
just both of your eyebrows just shot straight up. Anyways,
I designed them that way.
They're painted on.
Do you have a button?
Yeah, there's a little button. Be surprised. Yeah, so she has 6 easy ways to up-level your customer conversations with questions. We won't go into the questions. It's a great post. You should read it. But also, I would love to hear your thoughts on how you coach about strategic conversations, how you identify when a strategic conversation is valuable versus when a tactical conversation is valuable, at least from a leadership perspective.
Yeah, I will tell you the number one thing that drives me crazy is when leaders give feedback that their CSMs or whomever need to be more strategic, and they give no guidance because that doesn't mean anything. Like literally doesn't mean anything. And I actually, sadly just got off a call with a woman last week who was just let go from her job. They were about ready to put her on a PIP, and they let her decide if she wanted to just leave. And the feedback from her leader was just that she wasn't strategic enough. And I told her in coaching, and I said, I need you to go into those meetings, go press and ask exactly what that means. Yeah. And the leader couldn't articulate it and gave like really poor, vague examples that, in my opinion, not grounds for termination. And it was just so disgusting. And I see it all the time. So, okay, let me go back to answering your question now that I just went on my little rant there. If you're a leader and you're telling your team or whomever they need to be more strategic, and you're not leaning in to show them or teach them how to do that or what your expectations are, shame on you.
Did you hear that? Shame.
Shame. Yeah.
Shame.
Shame. Yes. Okay. I love that we were on the same place there. No. Okay. So for my team, listen, what I do and what I started doing a lot more of now is I do ride-alongs. So I actually ride on their calls, and I ask the customer when I arrive, like, hey, is it okay? Is it cool? I'm just going to shout out today, and I take notes. And the intention there is for me to hear how the CSMs are leading the conversations, where they dive into, where they're falling a little short, the conversation is a little shallow, could go a little bit deeper. And then I'm taking those conversations with very explicit notes, and I'm going back to them, and I'm giving them coaching and advice on like, hey, listen, your customer said X. Instead of digging into that, you assumed you knew what they meant, right? And so then you responded with an answer and kept moving through. I would have went back and unpacked that because we could have learned X, we could have learned Y, and I kind of like I'm guiding them that way because it's the questions and that intellectual curiosity, John, what you talked about, right? Like being curious, being creative. Those are the things that are going to get you to be strategic, right? Yep. Like that is where the strategic dialogues take place, is when you are intellectually curious and you're asking good questions and you don't make assumptions and you lean in and you dig deeper. That's where that comes from. Right. So there's no magical like, oh, I do this one thing and now I'm strategic. No, it literally comes from a place of deep curiosity where you innately want to understand what your customers are going through so you can lean in consultatively and strategically to give them advice and guide them because that is your role. Yeah. Right.
Can I make I think it's that overlaid with understanding what the company's objectives and goals are and being able to lean in, but then receive all that and put that into a framework that matches what the company needs.
That's huge.
Well, I mean, obviously, hopefully, if we are CSMing correctly, we should have that right in the back of our head. So that should be the foundation of what we're getting to, right? Is that those conversations should lead us closer to those end objectives. But I think people just fall short of that. And sometimes it's time, it's preparation, it's readiness in the conversations, the experience. And that's why I think if you're a leader, the best thing that I've been doing with my team right now is these ride-alongs, because listening to them and hearing where there's opportunities for us, I can point them very clearly into like where they missed an opportunity. And now when they go to the next one and I ride along and I hear them asking different questions, I know they got it.
Yeah. I love that.
Right. So I don't know. That's been my favorite coaching style to date.
Yeah, this also goes back to, I think Jeff B posted it this week about like the art of meeting prep is lost. This idea of like, you can't rely on your ability to kind of think in the moment. Like you have to spend time. Like, yeah, that's important and that's a skill. And, I think a lot of us have that strength, but I mean, there's a good amount of like intelligence behind spending an hour of your time before you get on each call, thinking about these things, like thinking about how that's what strategic means in my book, is saying, look, they're at X and their KPI is Y or whatever. And I have 5 ideas and I know this customer and I know how their team works. So I'm going to bring these ideas to them and get their feedback and let them augment and let them edit. And then I'm going to work with them to apply those processes and those change management skills right into the team. Like it has to be, most of the strategy is done before the call is actually made. And that's one of the things that I think is one of the hardest things to coach, because when I'm talking with people that I'm mentoring, it's like, walk me through your process. And most of the time, like I'm dead brained and I'm just like, I have to sit in silence for 20 minutes to think about this. Like, and you're watching me, this is awkward. Like, you can't really do a ride along to the inside of my brain, nor would you want to. But I think that you're absolutely right. I think there needs to be a lot more accountability when it comes to leadership on these things and these targets and what it means to be X or Y.
I'm going to use this opportunity to remind Josh that I still want him to get me an autograph from one of his MBA professors. So this guy, Richard Rumelt at UCLA School of Business, who wrote a book called Good Strategy, Bad Strategy. And I've read it twice. I did a book club on it at a prior company. And it was really, really amazing because I've always liked to consider myself strategic. I played competitive chess for a few years when I was younger, by the way. And I really love strategy. I think it's fascinating. I love, strategy games, thinking about strategy, yada, yada. And when I tried to kind of explain what I think based off of what I've read to people about strategy is looking for leverage or looking for advantages somehow. So in the book, Rumel, he uses IKEA as an example. IKEA's strategy is to be vertically integrated and optimize every single step of their logistics process so that they can keep their prices crazy low and basically just dominate their share of the market because nobody can compete with them on price because they've just optimized every single step of that chain. So whenever I'm working with people, I'm always looking for what's the right combinations of steps and things and people and resources and approaches that's going to yield some sort of outsized advantage that you won't get without spending that time. And to your point, John, that takes effort. And to your point, Kristi, it takes curiosity. You have to spend a lot of time asking questions, digging deep, asking those 5 whys, right? Why, until you really understand. And actually a prior mentor of mine who worked at McKinsey and has an MBA from Stanford, he told me about McKinsey's problem solving process.
Yeah.
It's a 7-step process and it takes hours. And most of it is just figuring out what is the problem we're solving. Before you even get into analysis and finding a solution, it's just all figuring it out.
When you're charging $1,000, you charge $1,000 an hour, then everything should take hours.
Billable hours, baby.
But one of the areas that I'm most impressed about Mickey with his strategy is that he's always thinking about principles, first order, second order principles to drive his decision making and mindset. And I think that's very strategic.
I try. Sometimes lots of times I will, make all the common errors, but I try.
That's awesome. It was
all
great.
right.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah. Should I press record? I think I forgot to do that earlier.
Well, shoot.
Yeah. All right, guys. This was good. We'll do it again in 2 weeks. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Enjoy that grapefruit spindrift.